Yes. All right. So good morning, everybody. We're going to call the Senate Committee on Finance. Well, no, this is the wrong agenda. I'm going to call the Subcommittee on General Government to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Buck. Senator Taylor. Assemblymember Anderson. Chair Neal.
So for today, the closing list, we just have the Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs, but there's several budgets underneath. So we will go ahead and open up the closing for, what is this, budget account 225-1520? Okay.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Nicolette Johnston, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. I'll be presenting the closing documents for 11 budget accounts within the Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs, which have been previously heard by the subcommittee on February 18th. The first budget is the Cultural Affairs Administration Budget Account 1520, which is located on page 3 of your packet. This budget is funded with room tax revenues. There are 4 major closing issues. The first major closing issue is a funding swap for the Division of Museums and History budget accounts. The governor recommends allocating room tax revenue of $4.4 million over the 25-27 biennium and corresponding reductions in general fund appropriations to increase the overall room tax revenue supporting the Division of Museums and History budget accounts from 55% to 81% and decrease general fund support from 45% to 19%. For comparison, the legislatively approved funding for the 23-25 biennium, excluding federal grants and other funds, was split 45% general fund appropriations and 55% room tax revenue transfers. This recommendation in the executive budget would change the funding formula for the state museums and the Nevada Historical Society and result in general fund savings of $2.2 million in each year of the 25-27 biennium, and corresponding increases in room tax revenue transfers as ongoing funding to the Division of Museums and History budget accounts. The table on page 4 provides the recommended general fund and room tax revenue funding swaps in the Division of Museums and History budget accounts for the 25-27 biennium. During the hearing, the department indicated the recommendation would offset the anticipated increase in general fund appropriations due to the recommendation to eliminate the room tax revenue transfers to the Governor's Office of Economic Development, Nevada Film Office, State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, State Parks, and the Department of Native American Affairs, Stewart Indian School Living Legacy budget accounts, which will be discussed further in major closing issue 2. The decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of allocating room tax revenue of $4.4 million over the 25-27 biennium with corresponding reductions in general fund appropriations to the Division of Museum and History budget accounts to increase the share of room tax revenue as ongoing funding for the state museums and the Nevada Historical Society.
Thank you. So committee, I want to make the motion to approve that decision as read by staff. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Oh, God, very eager this morning. All right, thank you. So, all in favor of the decision as read by staff? Oh, God, it's final day. All right. All right, all in favor of the decision on page 4 as read by staff? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing no opposition, this decision unit passes with unanimous. Next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. The second major closing issue is elimination of interdepartmental transfers of room tax revenue. The governor recommends eliminating room tax revenue transfers of $3.2 million over the 25-27 biennium to the Nevada Film Office State Parks and the Stewart Indian School Living Legacy and replacing the funding with general fund appropriations in the respective budget accounts. The Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs has historically been providing funding to the Nevada Film Office State Parks and the Stewart Indian School Living Legacy through transfers of room tax revenue, and the governor's recommendation is to eliminate such transfers and utilize general fund appropriations in place of room tax revenue to support associated expenditures in those respective budget accounts. The table on page 15 outlines the governor's recommendation to eliminate room tax revenue, interdepartmental transfers, and replace the funding in the affected budget accounts with general fund appropriations. The department indicates room tax revenue transfers to these three budget accounts have historically been transferred for the past decade, with the exception to the state parks in FY21 and 22 due to associated room tax revenue shortfalls. The department indicates no formal documentation of the historical context of these transfers exists to its knowledge, but it believes that they were established to aid other agencies in times of economic hardship. Additionally, the department no longer provides support to the Stewart Indian School Living Legacy, as it is now under the standalone Department of Native American Affairs. The recommendation, according to the agency, would allow for better insight of return on investment of room tax revenue and enable the department to utilize the funding to support the needs within the department and its museums. As previously noted, this budget account contains the department's room tax revenue and associated reserve, which provides funding to all agencies within the department. I would note the reserve target is an average of 90 days of room tax expenditures, which would equate to $9.3 million in FY 2027. Based on the revenue and expenditures in the executive budget, the elimination of revenue transfers to external agencies, as recommended by the governor, would be necessary to maintain room tax reserves at the target level, with all other decision units being considered. During the budget hearing, the subcommittee asked what the impact would be to room tax revenue reserves if these decision units were not approved. The agency stated it would assume any of the budget enhancement biennial requests within those agencies. If these three decisions are not approved, room tax revenue reserves would be further reduced by $3.2 million over the 25-27 biennium, with ending room tax revenue reserves of $1.1 million in FY 2026 and $6.3 million in FY 2027, representing a 54-day level of reserves prior to budget amendments and technical adjustments. The decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend eliminating $3.2 million in room tax revenue transfers over the 25-27 biennium and replace the funding in the respective budget accounts with general fund appropriations for the Nevada Film Office State Parks and the Stewart Indian School Living Legacy as recommended by the governor?
Thank you, staff. So my recommendation is no to eliminating the 3.2 million room tax revenue transfers. So I would like, is it a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
So I have a first from Assemblywoman Anderson, a second from Assemblywoman Shea Backus. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing no opposition, this decision unit passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. The third major closing issue is the America 250 Semi-Quincentennial Initiative. The governor recommends room tax revenue transfers totaling $750,000 in FY 2026 to participate in America 250, a national initiative to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 2026, as directed by the governor's executive order. 3 transfers of room tax revenue in the amount of $250,000 each in FY 2026 would be allocated to the Division of Tourism, Division of Museums and History Administration, and Nevada Arts Council to support the promotion of the America 250 commemoration of the United States semi-quincentennial. As background, the governor issued an executive order which establishes the State of Nevada Planning Commission to orchestrate the planning for the state's participation in America 250, a nonpartisan initiative. The commission is ordered to prepare a timeline of programs and events, apply for grants and scholarships, and recommend an overall fundraising plan for the program. Through Decision Unit E-130, the Division of Tourism would utilize its allocation of $250,000 to enhance the rural grant program to support rural communities of Nevada and develop events and initiatives showcasing the state's role in the history and growth of America. Through Decision Unit E-129, the allocation of $250,000 to the Museums and History Administration budget account would support a battle-born mobile museum, bring historic artifacts to rural residents and students for a mobile museum experience, offer storytelling studio to collect stories from Nevadans, and an audio archive that would be curated through podcasters and staff to be featured in the state's museums. Through Decision Unit E-128, the Nevada Arts Council would create a commemorative grant program and award $250,000 for projects that celebrate Nevada's connection to the nation's artistic heritage and creativity. During the budget hearing, the department indicated there were two processes to provide and advertise the commemorative grants. The first is through its America 250 Commission, which would oversee fundraising efforts, and the second would be, as previously noted, through the Division of Tourism's Travel Nevada, which would implement 2 rounds of grants to support events and marketing efforts for smaller communities in Nevada, and through the Nevada Arts Council for grants to artists and art organizations. Through the America 250 Commission, the department indicated it is hoping to raise $1 million through additional fundraising efforts. The decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of room tax revenue transfers totaling $750,000 in FY 2026 to the Division of Tourism, the Division of Museums and History, and the Nevada Arts Council to support the America 250 Semi-Quincentennial Initiative as recommended by the governor?
Thank you, staff. So my recommendation is to approve the room tax revenue transfers of $500,000 instead of $750,000, reducing E29. That's my recommendation. Are there any, because I'm not even asking, are there any questions on this motion before we have it? So seeing no questions, I will accept a motion for the reduction.
Thank you. So just to make sure I've got the motion correct, that we'll be recommending approval of room tax revenue transfers totaling $500,000 in fiscal year 2026 to the Division of Tourism, E-130, the division, and the Nevada Arts Council, E-128, to support the American 250 Semi-Quincentennial Initiative as recommended. That is my motion.
Do I have a second? Second from Assemblywoman Backus. All in favor of the motion? Discussion on the motion. Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. I understand that we're going into possibly some economic issues, and I do appreciate your looking and reduction in this. Is there a way we could allow, or if the money does come in, I mean, this is our history, this is our country and the rurals are often left out of it, that they could come back, at least IFC, would it be available for them to come back to IFC to ask for additional funding if they have the programs or the number of events out in the rurals?
I'm gonna have Ms. Kaufman address that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so this budget account is going to be funded, so it's room tax revenue, which means that they could come with a work program to seek approval later on if revenues are more optimistic.
Thank you, I appreciate that, and I'll be voting yes then. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Any additional comment? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of the motion as adjusted for reducing E29 and moving $500,000 in revenue transfers?
Aye.
It's me. It's me. All in favor of the decision, all in favor of the decision as stated, say aye. All right. Any opposed? Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, that decision unit passes. All right. It'll happen. It'll, okay, let's just move on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston for the record. The fourth major issue is position reclassifications. The governor recommends utilizing a net total of $69,896 in room tax revenue reserves over the 25-27 biennium for 3 position reclassifications. The position reclassifications include an unclassified operations and finance manager to a classified administrative services officer, an unclassified development specialist to a classified information technology manager, and a classified public information officer to an unclassified development specialist. The recommended classifications are outlined at the top of page 9 in the table. According to the agency, these position reclassifications would commensurate with the duties of the positions. The department testified that the recommendation to reclassify one existing unclassified development specialist position to a classified information technology manager position in Decision Unit E806 would improve recruitment and retention and be in line with the structure of other departments. The recommendation to reclassify a classified public information officer position to an unclassified development specialist in Decision Unit E816 would make the position title commensurate with the duties of the position, as this position currently handles marketing and project management for the Division of Museums and History and is often requested to perform evening and weekend work promoting events, which can present challenges as a classified position due to the need for flexibility to work nights and weekends. During the budget hearing, the department indicated that through Decision Unit E805, this was submitted as an Administrative Services Officer 2 position in AIR, as opposed to Administrative Services Officer 4 position, as this position currently would oversee 2 other ASO officers. The agency found it would be better positioned to have an ASO 4 position lead its fiscal team across all divisions and allow the agency to run more efficiently by having a dedicated fiscal lead. On March 18th, the Governor's Finance Office submitted Budget Amendment A255851520, which recommends to change the position reclassification in Decision Unit E805 from an unclassified Operations and Finance Manager position to an Administrative Services Officer 4 position instead of the Administrative Services Officer 2, which further reduces reserves by approximately $60,000 over the 25-27 biennium. If approved, the total cost for all 3 position reclassifications would be $133,381 over the 25-27 biennium. The budget amendment inadvertently included base adjustments that increase personnel costs and adjustments to fringe benefit rate adjustments by approximately $10,000 over the 25-27 biennium. If approved, fiscal staff recommends a technical adjustment to the budget amendment mentioned above to eliminate the error. The decision for the subcommittee. Does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of $69,896 in net room tax revenue transfer reduction over the 25-27 biennium for 3 position reclassifications, including an unclassified Operations and Finance Manager to a classified Administrative Services Officer 2 position, an unclassified Development Specialist to a classified Information Technology Manager position, and a classified Public Information Officer to a unclassified Development Specialist as recommended in the executive budget, with authority for fiscal staff to make technical adjustments as needed? Or does the subcommittee wish to approve net room tax revenue reserve reductions of $133,381 over the 25-27 biennium, as recommended in Budget Amendment A255851520 for 3 position reclassifications, including an unclassified Operations and Finance Manager to a classified Administrative Services Officer 4 position, an unclassified Development Specialist to a classified Information Technology Manager position, and a classified Public Information Officer to an unclassified Development Specialist with authority to correct the base budget error noted in Budget Amendment A255851520 and to make other technical adjustments as needed.
Thank you, staff. Subcommittee, my recommendation is to approve the second option as read by staff. Are there any questions on that recommendation? Seeing no questions, I will accept a motion.
So moved.
So I have a first from Assemblywoman Anderson, a second from Assemblywoman Backus. All in favor of the second recommendation, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing no opposition, the decision unit passes for the second option.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. Page 11 through 13 contains other items 1 through 59. Turning to page 13, other items 57, 58, and 59 are contingent upon actions in other budget accounts that will be further discussed. Other closing item 57 and 58 have recommended technical adjustments to balance forward reserves. And I would note that in other item 57 and 58, there is a budget amendment A258181520, which is a companion to budget amendment A258164216 to change the start date of the recommended new custodial worker position in other item, closing item 57, and then change the position in other item closing 58 to a museum attendant position. And this will be heard in the Nevada State Railroad Museum budget account, but that companion budget amendment is in this budget account. So the budget amendment inadvertently excluded the balance forward from previous year in FY 2027, which causes the reserves to be out of balance. So fiscal staff further recommends technical adjustments to include the balance forward of previous fiscal year in order to balance the reserves. So the decision is fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 56 be closed as recommended by the governor, contingent upon approval of the transfer receiving budget accounts within the Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs and other noted external agencies. Other closing items 57 and 58 and 59 be closed contingent upon approval of the noted decision units and the receiving budget accounts and inclusive of the technical adjustments identified in those other closing items and provide authority for fiscal staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary and also be closed consistent with the decision made in major issue number 2.
Thank you, staff. Subcommittee, I recommend closing this budget as stated by staff. Are there any questions on that motion? Seeing none, I will accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
So I have a first from Assemblywoman Anderson, a second from Assemblywoman Shea Backus. As all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, this decision unit passes as stated.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. The next budget account is the Destination Development Budget 1523. There is one major closing issue. It is the funding increase for the Destination Development Grant Program. The governor recommends additional room tax revenue of $500,000 in each year of the 25-27 biennium for destination development grants to promote travel and tourism in Nevada. The governor recommends increasing room tax revenue transfers for the Destination Development Grant Program by 50% from $1 million to $1.5 million per year for grants awarded to rural communities to continue to promote travel and advance community-based tourism. The department indicates that the Destination Development Grant Program became a priority after the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure Nevada's long-term success through resources to help communities reflect their unique identities. Agency performance measures in the new executive budget indicate the number of communities impacted by the program increased from 9 in FY 2023 to 15 in FY 2024 and is projected to increase to 21 communities in FY 2027. The program currently has 3 grantee cohorts, which are presented in the table in the middle of page 16. Funding would support applications and a consulting period for cohorts 4 and 5, which are scheduled in the 25-27 biennium, and these projects would be funded with room tax revenue through this recommendation. During the joint subcommittee meeting on February 18th, the agency indicated that tourism and visitor spending drives revenue, particularly in rural areas, and that tourism-related spending in rural Nevada has exceeded pre-pandemic spending levels. The addition of these grants would help small towns continue to attract visitors to their communities, diversify their economies, and showcase their unique natural assets. Without support of these grants, some of these small communities struggle to compete for tourism revenue, which limits their economic potential. And this funding would make sure that these communities remain resilient and economically self-sustaining. The decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of additional room tax revenue of $500,000 in each year of the 25-27 biennium to increase funding for the destination development grants to promote travel and tourism in Nevada, as recommended by the governor?
Thank you, staff. Subcommittee, my recommendation is to approve the additional room tax revenue of $500,000. Are there any questions on that? Seeing no questions, I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
So I have a first from Assemblywoman Anderson, a second from Assemblywoman Backus. Are there any questions on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, this decision unit passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. There are no other closing items in this budget account, so I would recommend to move on to budget account 2943, the Nevada State Museum in Las Vegas. There are two major closing issues. The first major closing issue is the recommendation for a new custodial worker position. The governor recommends total funding of $121,337, of which $23,054 in general fund appropriations and $98,283 room tax revenue over the 25-27 biennium for new custodial worker position to help provide a clean and sanitary environment at the museum. The department indicates museum attendance has increased, and with the current level of custodial staffing, it faces challenges maintaining a clean environment for museum staff and visitors with an existing custodial staff of 2, particularly if one or both employees are on leave. During the budget hearing, the agency indicated that the Nevada State Museum in Las Vegas expects a 20% increase in visitation over the upcoming biennium. And when one or two of the custodial workers, as previously mentioned, are out on leave, it presents a challenge. And with increased visitation, as well as increased school group visitations, it can require more immediate custodial attention. The department indicates it is paying comp time and requiring employees to work beyond 40 hours, which can lead to burnout. And the department indicates that having the additional employee would allow the museum to have coverage for all hours while the museum is open. The decision for the subcommittee is, does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval for total funding of $121,337, $23,054 in general fund appropriations, and $98,283 in room tax revenue over the 25-27 biennium for a new custodial worker position as recommended by the governor?
Thank you, staff. Subcommittee, I recommend as stated by staff.
So moved. Second.
So I have a first from Assemblywoman Anderson, a second from Assemblywoman Backus. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, this decision unit passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. The second major closing issue is the elimination of a vacant retail storekeeper position. The governor recommends the elimination of a vacant retail storekeeper position for savings of $159,821 in museum dedicated trust funds over the 25-27 biennium due to an extended vacancy. The governor recommends the existing retail storekeeper position be eliminated because the position has been vacant for over a decade, although the agency indicates it is a critical position to support the museum store. The museum's existing retail storekeeper position has been vacant since 2014, primarily because the museum store has not had sufficient sales to fund the position, according to the agency. Due to the vacancy extending more than 10 years, the governor's finance indicated that this position should be eliminated and the new position be requested after the agency determines store revenue is sufficient to support the costs. Pursuant to NRS Chapter 381, the museum dedicated trust funds which the board authorizes for a position must be included in the budget prepared for the department pursuant to Chapter 353 of NRS. The funding authorized by the board for the retail storekeeper position was included in the agency request budget for the 25-27 biennium. However, Decision Unit E 680 would remove the funding and position from the budget. Because the position is funded with museum dedicated trust funds, in order to fill it during the interim, the vacant position must be included in the legislatively approved budget in accordance with NRS Chapter 381. The governor has recommended the position be eliminated, and as it has been difficult to fill because of the profitability. And, the department indicated is trying to change its methodology to sell items in the museum store more rapidly so it can buy more inventory to create profitability. In the Las Vegas State Museum store, the sales revenues have increased with revenue of approximately $70,000 in FY 2024 compared to $49,000 in FY 2023 and $55,000 in FY 2022. And the agency believes that its store revenue increase in FY 2024 resulted from aggressive marketing related to annual events. The department believes it's on target to generate enough revenue in FY 2025 by turning inventory over 4 times during the fiscal year, with increased visitation and a more robust inventory to purchase souvenirs from a full store as opposed to an empty one. The department plans for an initial investment of $25,000 at the beginning of the year to turn into $100,000 by the end of the year and would begin to maintain profitability to hire a full-time retail storekeeper. The agency is currently supporting the store through other staff positions, volunteers, and temporary contract employees. With the anticipated increased visitation of 20% and more children coming through the store, the agency anticipates generating $120,000 in profit, which could cover the position and still have money to purchase inventory to do it again in the following year. Following the budget hearing, the department indicated that its targeted date to hire the new position is December 2027 in FY 2028. However, the department requests to maintain the position in the budget in the event it is able to collect sufficient revenues in the 25-27 biennium to fund the position. The department indicates it would require approval from the Board of Museums and History in its annual budget to be able to hire the position if it is able to demonstrate adequate profitability to fund the position. So the decision for the subcommittee: does the subcommittee wish to A, recommend approval of Decision Unit E 680 to eliminate the retail storekeeper position and associated funding of $159,821 from the Museum Dedicated Trust Fund over the 25-27 biennium as recommended by the governor, or B, recommend not approving the elimination of the retail storekeeper position and associated funding of $159,821 from the Museum Dedicated Trust Fund over the 25-27 biennium and instead retain the position and authority in this budget account.
Thank you, staff. Subcommittee, I recommend B, as stated by staff. I will accept a motion.
So moved.
So I have a first from Assemblywoman Anderson, a second from Assemblywoman Backus. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of B, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No. All right. This decision unit passes for B. Next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. There are 9 other closing items. I would point to other closing item 9 pertains to a funding swap, which was previously discussed in the closing for the Cultural Affairs budget account, and fiscal staff recommends other closing item 9 be closed consistent with the subcommittee action on Decision Unit E 547 in that Cultural Affairs budget account. Fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 8 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing item 9 be closed consistent with the subcommittee's action in Decision Unit E 547 in the Cultural Affairs Administration budget account and provide authority for fiscal staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you, staff. I recommend closing as stated by staff.
So moved.
Second.
So I have a first from Assemblywoman Anderson, a second from Assemblywoman Backus. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of motion as stated by staff, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Seeing no opposition, this decision unit closes as stated.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. The next and last budget account that was previously heard on February 18th is the Nevada State Railroad Museum's budget account 4216. There is one major closing issue for 4 new positions in Boulder City. The governor recommends total funding of $306,408,000, approximately $43,000 in general fund appropriations and $185,000 room tax revenue, and $77,000 in the museum dedicated trust fund over the upcoming biennium for 4 new positions at the Boulder City Railroad Museum. These 4 new positions are recommended in the executive budget to support operations due to the expansion of the museum. As background, Assembly Bill 1 of 34th, 2023 special session authorized funding to expand the Nevada State Railroad Museum in Boulder City, including the construction of its 10,000 square foot visitor center and expanded museum store. The department indicates the project is progressing and plans to open to the public in the spring of 2026, pending completion dates, exhibit installation, and the hiring of new staff. The table at the top of page 26 provides an overview of the recommended new positions and associated funding in the governor's recommended budget to support the museum in Boulder City. 3 of the 4 new positions are recommended to start in July 2026, including the retail storekeeper, custodial worker, and part-time museum attendant. The grounds maintenance worker would start in October 2025. The retail storekeeper would assist with operations and promotions of the museum store. The custodial worker would perform general cleaning services at the museum facilities to provide a clean and safe environment for visitors and staff. And the grounds maintenance worker would maintain museum grounds. The part-time museum attendant would assist with greeting guests, collecting admission fees, issuing tickets, and directing visitors. The department indicates that waiting for the retail storekeeper, custodial worker, and museum attendant to start in FY 2027 would delay the opening of the visitor center, given the current construction timeline, and that the new positions would need to be in place by late FY 2026 to open on schedule in the spring of 2026. During the hearing, the department indicated if there were any construction delays, the opening of the new visitor center could occur in late spring or June or July 2026. However, would need to hire the new employees earlier to train, with it being a Federal Railroad Administration certified railroad, and new employees would need to have appropriate time for the training. On March 31st, the Governor's Finance Office submitted Budget Amendment A 25816-4216, which changed the start date of the retail storekeeper, custodial worker, and part-time museum attendant positions from July 1st, 2026 to January 1st, 2026. And this would allow them to be trained in time appropriate for the visitor center to open. This budget amendment reflects a total increase of approximately $48,024 in FY 2026 and a total decrease of $7,139 in FY 2027 in room tax revenues transferred from the Cultural Affairs budget account. And this reflects a total increase of approximately $11,000 in FY 2026 and a total decrease of $1,600 in FY 2027 in general fund appropriations, with an increase of approximately $40,000 in FY 2026 and a decrease of $6,000 in FY 2027 in museum dedicated trust funds. The budget amendment did not include funding for email services for 2 of the positions proposed to start in January 2026. Therefore, a technical adjustment would be needed to include those email expenses. And additionally, there was an incorrect anniversary date for 2 of the positions. So fiscal staff recommends technical adjustments to include funding for email services and correct the anniversary dates of those positions. The decision for the subcommittee: does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of $306,408, $43,781 in general fund appropriations, $185,222 in room tax revenue, and $77,405 in transfers from the museum dedicated trust fund over the 25-27 biennium for 4 new positions at the Boulder City Railroad Museum, which would include the grounds maintenance worker beginning in FY 2026 and the retail storekeeper, custodial worker, and part-time museum attendant beginning in FY 2027 as recommended in the executive budget, and authority for fiscal staff to make technical adjustments as necessary. Or does the subcommittee wish to recommend approval of a budget amendment A25-816-4216, which recommends total funding of $391,030 and $53,372 in general fund appropriations, $226,107 in room tax revenue, and $111,551 in transfers from the Museum Dedicated Trust Fund over the 25-27 biennium for 4 new positions at the Boulder City Railroad Museum, which includes the grounds maintenance worker beginning in FY 2026 and the retail storekeeper, custodial worker, and part-time museum attendant beginning on January 1st, 2026, and provide authority for fiscal staff to make technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you, staff. Subcommittee, I recommend option 1.
So moved.
So I have a first from Assemblywoman Anderson, a second from Assemblyman Watts. Are there any discussions on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Seeing none, decision unit for option 1 passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. There are 6 other closing items. Other closing item 5 references the funding swap that was previously discussed in the Cultural Affairs Budget Administration, and fiscal staff recommends that be closed consistent with the subcommittee action in that budget account. Additionally, other item 6 for position transfer, fiscal staff recommends a technical adjustment to eliminate the recommendation to transfer out 1 curator position and associated revenues of $113,208, of which $21,510 general fund and $91,698 in room tax revenue in FY 2026, and $117,011, of which $22,232 general fund and $94,779 in room tax revenue in FY 2027 to the Lost City Museum budget account, and to retain the respective funding and curator position in this budget account as it was erroneously included, and the position should remain in this Nevada State Railroad Museum budget account. Fiscal staff recommends other closing items 1 through 4 be closed as recommended by the governor. Other closing item 5 be closed consistent with the subcommittee's action in decision unit E548 in the Cultural Affairs Administration budget account. And other closing item 6 be closed with the noted technical adjustment and provide authority for fiscal staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you, staff. I recommend, as stated by staff, take a motion.
So moved.
So I have a first from Assemblywoman Anderson, a second from Assemblywoman Backus. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing no opposition, this decision unit passes as stated.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. I will now begin presenting the budget accounts for which the subcommittee has not previously heard, for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations. I will pause after presenting each budget account to allow for questions, and when I've presented the last budget in this group and questions have been addressed, the chair may wish to ask for a single motion for the closing consideration of all budgets for which fiscal staff is responsible for developing the recommendations, which is noted on page 47 of the packet. The first budget is on page 31 of your packet. This is the Division of Tourism, budget account 1522. The primary mission of the Division of Tourism is to generate revenue for the state of Nevada through activities that encourage both short-term and long-term tourist visitation. There are no major closing issues. There are 11 other closing items. Other closing item 11 pertains to the America 250 semi-quincentennial commemoration, and fiscal staff recommends other item 11 be closed consistent with the subcommittee action on decision unit E130 in the Cultural Affairs Administration budget account. And as previously stated, closing recommendations for this budget account are included on the summary page in the closing packet.
Are there any questions on this? Seeing none, let's move and go to the next.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. The next budget account is the Nevada Humanities Budget Account 2894. The Nevada Humanities is a 501c3 charitable organization that works in partnership with local communities to develop and fund humanities activities and educational programs. There are no major closing issues and there are no closing items.
Subcommittee, any questions on this budget? Okay, seeing none, that's next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. The next budget account is the Museums and History Administration, Budget Account 2941. The Division of Museums and History is responsible for the oversight and administration of the statewide museum system. There are no major closing issues. There are 5 other closing items. Other closing item 4 pertains to the funding swap that was previously discussed in the closing document for the Cultural Affairs Budget Account. Fiscal staff recommends a subcommittee close this decision unit consistent with its recommendation for the corresponding decision unit E546 in the Cultural Affairs Administration Budget Account. Other closing item 5 for the America 250 semi-quincentennial commemoration. This was not approved in the Cultural Affairs Administration Budget Account, and so fiscal staff recommends the subcommittee close this decision unit consistent with its recommendation for the corresponding decision unit E129 in the Cultural Affairs Administration Budget Account.
Any questions? Seeing none.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. The Lost City Museum, Budget Account 1350 on page 37 of the packet. The Lost City Museum is dedicated to the archaeology and preservation of the ancestral Pueblo dwellers of southern Nevada. There are no major closing issues. There are 6 other closing items. Other closing item 5 also references the funding swap previously discussed in the Cultural Affairs Administration Budget Account. Fiscal staff recommends other closing item 5 be closed consistent with the subcommittee action and decision unit E543 in the Cultural Affairs Administration Budget Account. And other closing item 6 is the position transfer previously referenced and discussed in the Nevada State Railroad Museum's budget account. Fiscal staff recommends other closing item 6 be closed consistent with the subcommittee action on decision unit E900 in the Nevada State Railroad Museum's budget account.
Any questions? Seeing none, next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Nevada Historical Society, Budget Account 2870. The Nevada Historical Society is located on the University of Nevada, Reno campus and was founded in 1904 and is the oldest museum in the state. There are no major closing issues. There are 12 other closing items. Other closing item 12 also pertains to the funding swap previously addressed in the Cultural Affairs Administration Budget Account. Fiscal staff recommends other closing item 12 be closed consistent with the subcommittee action on decision unit E544 in the Cultural Affairs Administration Budget Account.
Members, any questions? Seeing none, next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. The Nevada State Museum in Carson City, Budget Account 2940. The Nevada State Museum is located in the 1869 U.S. Mint Building in Carson City, which is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. There are no major closing issues. There are 6 other closing items. Other closing item 6 also pertains to the funding swap, as previously heard in the Cultural Affairs Administration Budget Account. Fiscal staff recommends the subcommittee close this decision unit consistent with its recommendation for corresponding decision unit E545 in the Cultural Affairs Administration Budget Account.
Members, any questions? Seeing none, next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicolette Johnston. The last budget account, Nevada Arts Council, Budget Account 2979. The Nevada Arts Council works in partnership with schools, arts institutions, artists, municipalities, and tribal organizations to support diverse cultural activities such as folklife festivals, youth artwork projects, concert series, and traveling arts exhibits. There are no major closing issues. There are 7 other closing items. Other closing item 7 pertains to the America 250 semi-quincentennial commemoration, as previously discussed in the Cultural Affairs Administration Budget Account. Fiscal staff recommends the subcommittee close this decision unit consistent with its recommendation for the corresponding decision unit E-129 in the Cultural Affairs Administration budget account.
Okay, so, subcommittee, I'm making single motion for all of the budgets read as staff recommendation. So, no, you gotta read that. Oh, sorry. You have to read that?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I jumped again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As previously noted, fiscal staff is responsible for developing closing recommendations for the following budget accounts. To assist with the closing, fiscal staff has identified the budget accounts that are recommended to be closed as recommended by the governor, along with identified technical adjustments that are recommended below. Fiscal staff recommends that the following budget accounts be closed as recommended by the governor with a noted technical adjustments and request authority for staff to make other technical adjustments as necessary. 1522, Division of Tourism, including other closing item 11, be closed consistent with the subcommittee action on decision unit E-130 in the Cultural Affairs Administration budget account. 2894, Nevada Humanities. 2941, Museums and History Administration, including other closing items 4 and 5, be closed consistent with the subcommittee actions on decision unit E-546 and decision unit E-129 respectively in the Cultural Affairs Administration budget account 1520. Budget account 1350, Museums and History, Lost City Museum, including other closing item 5, be closed consistent with the subcommittee action on decision unit E-543 in the Cultural Affairs Administration budget account 1520, and other closing item 6 be closed consistent with a subcommittee action on decision unit E-900 and the Nevada State Railroad Museum's budget account 4216. Budget account 2870, Nevada Historical Society, including other closing item 12, be closed consistent with a subcommittee action on decision unit E-544 in the Cultural Affairs Administration budget account 1520. Budget account 2940, Nevada State Museum, Carson City, including other closing item 6, be closed consistent with the subcommittee actions on decision units E-545 in the Cultural Affairs Administration budget account 1520. And 2979, Nevada Arts Council, including other closing items 7, be closed consistent with a subcommittee action on decision unit E-128 and the Cultural Affairs Administration budget account 1520.
All right, part 2. Single motion.
So
as-
moved.
Okay. Second. So first from, first from Assemblywoman Anderson, second from Assemblywoman Backus. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Seeing none, the item closes as stated by staff. All right, so that is the end of our business. We will open up for public comment. Is there anyone here in Carson City for public comment? There's no one in Vegas. Is there anyone on the phone lines, BPS, for public comment?
Thank you, Chair. The public lines are open and working. However, there are no callers for public comment at this time.
All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome back. See you all tomorrow.
Right. Is that 9?